abiding grace each day you bring, and walk with me through everything this life does impart, this life does impart. I'm really just a flute you play. You give me all the words to say, and guide me through each night and day of time's endless rounds, of time's endless rounds. Oh, you have stolen my heart and filled up each and every part with your love, with your name you do impart your songs, endless songs, your songs, endless songs. Whatever you would have me do, I'll do the best that I can do, and offer all I do to you with all my heart, with all my heart, with all my heart.
Good morning. This is kind of, last week we had a very good lecture on divine love, which was a surprise to both Arupeshananda and myself that we'd chosen similar subjects. So today we're talking about for the love of God. Now you can say it however you want it. Today I asked the convent, I said, what do you do for the love of God? And they were all in a good mood, and they answered, I clean the kitchen floor, I chop the vegetables, I clean up after myself, all for the love of God. Like Jayanti's song said today, everything I do with my whole heart and give to you. But when we think about what do we do in expressing our love of God, we do a tremendous amount of maintenance. We love our bodies, and we do a tremendous amount to take care of them. We love our families, and we spend a lot of time and thought taking care of them. We spend a lot of time taking care of our homes. We spend a lot of time taking care of our possessions. But what do we do for our love of God? Today we're not going to discuss the existence of God. I'm going to assume that you all have some idea of God, or you wouldn't be here. So today we're just going to discuss the idea of loving God and how we do that, how we cultivate it, how we express it. Swami Vivekananda in Bhakti Yoga kind of said what he said it very well, much better than I can say it, okay? So I'm going to read it to you. How's that? He said, this is the state of the vast majority of mankind. The body is everything. The body is all the universe to them. Bodily enjoyment is their all in all. This demon of the worship of the body and the things of the body has entered into all of us. We may indulge in tall talk and take high flights, but we're like vultures all the same. Our mind is directed to the piece of carrion below. Why should our body be safe from the tiger? Why may we not give it over to the tiger? The tiger will thereby be pleased, and that is not altogether so very far from self-sacrifice and worship. Can you reach the realization of such an idea in which all sense of self is completely lost? It's a very dizzy height on the pinnacle of the religion of love, and few in this world have ever climbed it. But until a man reaches that highest point of ever ready and ever willing self-sacrifice, he cannot become a perfect bhakta, lover of God. We may all manage to maintain our bodies more or less satisfactory, and for a longer or shorter period of time. We had a friend who, when he had his 50th birthday, he looked at me and he said, God, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of my body. That was 30 years ago, and he's still here. Nevertheless, our bodies have to go. There is no permanence about them. Blessed are those whose bodies get destroyed in the service of others. Wealth and even life itself, the sage always holds ready for the service of others. In this world, there being one thing certain, death. It is far better that this body dies in a good cause than a bad one. We may drag our life on for 50 years or 100 years, but after that, what happens? Everything that is the result of combination must get dissolved and die. There must and will come a time for it to be decomposed. Jesus and Buddha and Mohammed are all dead. All the great prophets and teachers of the world are dead. Their bodies, their teachings live on. Okay, so how do we develop a love for God, a relationship with God? How do we do that? I mean, it's kind of vague. You can't see him. You can't see it, but you all have an idea. And everyone has always had an idea, because our inner nature is that divinity. And we want to find it, re-find it, re-identify with it. That's what we're trying to do when we say we love God. We're reaching deep inside and recognizing our own Atman. Okay, in Vedanta, of course, all religions have definitions, right? We say that why do we do this? It's a desire for freedom, and what gives you freedom? Perfect love. If you have there is no sense of condemnation, there is no sense of rejection, there is no sense of bargaining, getting something back. This is perfect freedom and perfect love. All the songs that we hear, well, that I heard when I was growing up, all the love songs, were basically were expressing that longing. They express that longing. Oh, my love, my darling, I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time. Okay? Think of that. Think of the object of that, or the longing that you have as your desire for God. All of those things. Where our minds are is where our hearts are. If we're consumed with the thought of God at all times, then basically everything you see becomes a part of you and becomes, there's no fear involved, because you're self-recognizing yourself. You love all beings. And we'll get into what they call in Vedanta. First I'm going to read you another poem. Okay. George Herbert. Love bade me welcome, yet my soul drew back, guilty of dust and sin. But I can't read my own writing. But I love observing me grow slack from my first entrance in. It drew nearer to me, sweetly questioning if I lacked anything. A guest, I answered, worthy to be here. Love said, you shall be he. I, the God, I can't read my writing. The unkind, the ungrateful, oh my dear, I cannot look on thee. Love took my hand and smiling did reply, who made those eyes but thee, but me? Truth, Lord, but I have marred them. Let my shame go where it doth deserve, and know you must not, says love, who bore the blame. My dear, then I will serve. You must sit down, says love, and take my meat. So I did. Sit and eat. You see, we think so often we get involved with our guilt. We think that we have done things that are wrong. Now, in Vedanta, they say we do things that lead us away from our realization of God. This is a learning process, this life in this world. And as long as we're learning, we will make mistakes. If we can learn from those mistakes and go forward, then there's nothing wrong. It's just ignorance. It's just a mistake. And there's no reason to beat yourself up about making mistakes. We don't expect children to know everything when they're tiny. We don't expect that. We don't expect our older family members, when they start to forget things, we don't berate them because they're forgetting things. We accept them as they are. We have to do that with ourselves. Everyone starts right where they are. And you look at yourself and you think, okay, this is where I am. But forget the guilt. Acknowledge the mistake and say, I hope to God I won't do it again. Now, just say, I'm not going to do it again. That's very brave. But if it does happen again, you get up and dust yourself off and start all over again. Swamiji's had a saying, he said, fail. Fail again. Fail grandly until you succeed. But you don't need to be upset and give up because of the failures. We're all going to make mistakes. Every one of us had. And it happens over and over again until we get the message. But we are spiritual beings. And that is our very nature. Now, another man, whom I have no idea who he is, said, we're all spiritual beings, but for many, malnutrition of the soul is the plague of modern life. We don't take the time to feed our soul. We don't take the time to nourish it with positive messages about ourselves and others. Okay. According to Vedanta, love is a triangle. Now, I know you've all heard this before. There's 3 parts to the triangle. Love knows no bargaining. If you want something in return for your acts of love, or I'll love you if you love me, this is not real love. This is not the love that we're seeking with God. The love that we're seeking with God is totally unconditional. No matter what you do, God always loves you. So, no matter what God gives you, can't we just always love God? If God can love us unconditionally, can we not do the same? We're capable of it. Can we count our blessings as well as our miseries? That's a harder one. But I find that most things that go wrong in our lives after they're over, not when they're happening, but after they're over, they're great learning experiences. And we have survived them. So we can look back and say, but what did I learn from that? And I think in most cases, most of us will find that it's a very positive thing that we have learned and we can grow from. Okay, so love knows no shopkeeping. If I give you 24 hours of my day, will you give me the same, or will you take some time out and go somewhere else? Human love is almost always, I think I have Swamiji again. Yep. No, I thought, okay, I don't. Human love always looks at something in it for me, because that's our nature, that's our ego's nature. Okay, so love knows no bargaining. Love knows no fear. If people worship God out of fear, they're really worshiping their own desires, because they're afraid that they won't get what they want. I mean, that takes a little while to think about, but we think, are we afraid that God will punish us? Do we want, are we afraid of God? This is more common in the Judeo-Christian religion, much more common, and it's something that as people who have been raised for the most part in the Judeo-Christian religion, that we have to look at and see that we do not, that we try not to maintain that fear. If we're going to love God, how can we fear him or her? Can't, because love is love. The third branch of love is love knows no rival. There's no jealousy. Love is love, period. Everyone gets the same unqualified love, unjudgmental, unconditional. Love simply is. And we cannot go through life looking at others and saying, well, they've got more than I do, so God must love them more. I mean, that was a great one for the early, who were they? One of the Christian churches was based on how successful you were in life was how much God loved you. I don't think so. But these are ideas that are deep inside us, and we have to really look at them and say, do I really believe that? Is that the God that I want to worship? I decided no, so that's why I'm here. But yeah, this yeah. So how do we form these new relationships with our idea of God? Because in order to love someone or something, you have to know them. You have to have a relationship. You have to be with them. According to Vedanta, there's 5 kinds. Of course, it's wonderful when they delineate. There's 5 kinds of relationships. There's 3 angles to the triangle. I mean, it makes it easier to remember, but according to the Vedanta scriptures, there's the peaceful attitude towards God. Now, that was always kind of stymied me because I thought, what's peaceful? I mean, love is peaceful. Human love usually has some ups and downs in it. But, okay. Yeah, there is, why can't I find it? A psalm that says, here it is. No, here it is. This is terrible, isn't it? Here is our psalm. My mind is not noisy with desires, Lord, and my heart has satisfied its longing. I do not care about religion or anything that is not you. I have soothed and quieted my soul like a child at its mother's breast. My soul is as peaceful as a child sleeping in its mother's arms. Now, I mean, that gives us a vivid picture of what the peaceful relationship with God is. This would be complete and total self-surrender. Because as long as you're a baby and your mother's holding you, what do you have to do? Absolutely nothing. Just be there and feel that love. That's all you have to do in all instances. The second aspect would be like a servant of God. Now, this was the relationship that Ramakrishnananda, one of the direct disciples of Ramakrishna, had with Ramakrishna as he was alive and after he died. Swami Ramakrishnananda took the ashes, carried them, and set up the worship of Ramakrishna, which we do every day here in the temple. He never missed a day. He never went on pilgrimage. He never went anywhere because he was completely the servant of Ramakrishna. Now, another servant of God would be, well, in the mythical sense, it would be Hanuman, who was a servant of Rama, did anything Rama wanted. Another relationship is that of the friend. Now, the friend of God would be like Brother Lawrence. We all know the story of Brother Lawrence, who practiced the presence of God. Now, I'm not saying he went out of his way. It would be a sort of meditation. It's training the mind to think of God 24 hours a day. Like Jayanti's song, everything I do for you. This is also an extremely high manifestation of love for God. And at the same time, you feel that love returned. Because when God is with you every single minute, how can you talk to him, you goes along and went and bought groceries with Brother Lawrence, went and stocked the monastery thing, and your constant companion, your friend. So these relationships, but the relationship is so deep that you never feel their absence. Another relationship is that of parent or child. Some people feel they're the child of God. This was Ramakrishna's attitude towards Kali, the Divine Mother. He felt his entire life he was her child. And so he behaved. He asked her everything. He talked to her. He said, Mother, should I do this? Mother, should I go there? He never did anything without asking his mother. Now, when people first met him, they thought his mother was, in the other room. Well, she was in the temple, but they were really stymied when they'd see him. I have to go ask my mother. Even when a monk came to teach him non-dual Vedanta, and I think you know Advaita Vedanta. Many of you are familiar with Swami Sarvapriyananda, who does excellent lectures on the non-dual Vedanta, no physical aspect of the divine. So this monk, Todapuri, came to Dakshineshwar, and he was going to teach Ramakrishna get him over the attachment to his mother. And Ramakrishna, of course, went and said, I have to go ask my mother if I can do that. And he could not get past seeing his mother. No matter how deep his meditations were, no matter how quickly he progressed, he could not get past the vision of his beloved mother. Until Todapuri took a piece of glass and stuck it in his forehead and cut that bondage. And he had the realization, and Todapuri looked at him and said, I have spent my entire life trying to get what you got in 4 days. So, and Ramakrishna immediately went back to, but I love my mother. So that was his relationship. Now we have also the parent relationship with God, where you think of God as your child and you must take care of them at every minute. This is a little, well, of course, Mary, the mother of Jesus, had that relationship. She cared for her child. She was worried when he was lost, and they had found him in the temples at 12 or 14. Where is he? Where is he? Where is my boy? And she was one of the ones that was constant with him through his whole life and teachings. We also have the mythologic, well, we have the mother of Buddha. All of these, Buddha had a mother. She was a princess in India. And of course, she was bereft when he left. And she became one of his disciples. But there's still that motherhood where you want to take care of, and you feel you have to protect the Lord. You have to protect. It's up to you. It seems like ego, but not when you say it's, but I'm doing this for God. I have to take care. I don't want my beloved to have any problems. I don't want anyone to hurt my beloved. Okay. Then there is what they call the sweet relationship, which encompasses all of these. This is the, well, as Ramakrishna said, the love of a paramour for her lover. It cancels everything out of your mind except that one thought of God. The most common example of it is the play in Vrindavan of Krishna with the gopis and Radha and Krishna. This was all-consuming love. These gopis, we have to get this in perspective though, okay? Krishna was 9 years old when he lived in Vrindavan. 9 to 12. So he's a delightful little boy who is also the Lord of the universe. And the gopis are the milkmaids and wives of the cowherd boys and the women who lived in the village. And they cannot resist running to him every time his flute plays. They leave their homes, they drop everything they're doing, they run to Krishna. This is what they call the sweet attitude, Madhura. And as Ramakrishna said, we have to reach that point where our yearning for God becomes, if we reach that point where our yearning for God becomes all-consuming, know for sure that God is almost there for you, that you will have the vision, you will have the experience. But how many of us have that kind of complete yearning? Swami Chaitanananda once said, we were talking at some gathering, and he said, how many of us, if Jesus walked in or Ramakrishna walked in and said, come with me, how many of us would say, just 1 second, I have something I have to finish? How many of us would just drop everything and walk off? It has to be to that point where you really would drop everything and walk without a second thought. But most of us are not there. Most of us are still working on these things, and we have to actively pursue our nurturing of the relationship that seems the most natural for us. You can't have all the relationships unless it's Madhura, but which is the most natural? What is your most natural inclination? Do you feel like taking care of people? Develop the attitude of a mother for a child. There was an extreme example in the life of Ramakrishna. There was a woman, a Brahmin woman, who lived on the banks of the Ganga, and her name was Gopalarma. Now Gopalarma was an Brahmin, but remember, ladies in those days were not educated. No matter what caste they were not educated. They couldn't read. She was a widow, but she had this baby Gopala that she worshipped every day, and she took care of him. She did everything for this baby Gopala, baby Krishna. And by the time she met Ramakrishna, she actually saw baby Gopala every minute of her life. He would come and he'd pull on her sari. He would say, "I'm hungry, get me some food." He would jump up on her shoulders and sit on her lap. And she experienced this every day of her life. Now, at the same time, Swamiji was coming to visit Ramakrishna, and he didn't believe in these kind of visions. He thought this was silly. And so Ramakrishna said, "Talk to her." Swamiji went to talk to her, and he came back, and Ramakrishna said, "What do you think?" He said, "What can I think? She sees the baby. She takes care of the baby. It's her entire life." She came and she started giving this same worship, cooking for Ramakrishna, and she gave him her little deity of the baby Gopala. And he said, "It's yours?" And she said, "No, I don't need it anymore." That relationship with her baby Gopala had become so deep that that's where her mind was all the time. And she literally saw him with these eyes. This is all possible. This was in the 1800s. It wasn't that long ago. And as Arupeshananda told you last week, there was the woman in, I can't remember which country she was in even, but her yearning for God produced a huge change in her life. And it was that yearning and that love. And it gave utter freedom and utter freedom and peace. And most of us want that utter. I'm going to read you another one. This is from a Sufi teacher. "There's a treasure buried in the heart of the knower. It is love. A single jewel out of it is worth 1,000 heavens. The guardian of heaven is an angel, whereas the guardian of the treasure is God himself. Know that thy merit is measured by what you seek. If you worship to obtain heaven or avoid hell, you worship your own desires. If you seek or fear an object, you are the worshiper of that object. The real value depends on what is in your heart. If your heart is attached to God, you are a divine man." Of course, we also believe that your innermost being is the Atman, which is divine. There's no debating that in Vedanta. That's it. It's your job to uncover it, because it's been covered by our past karmas or samskaras, by our ego, and our job in this life is to uncover that divinity again and know it, because it is in every single one of us. And it's the same divinity in every single one of us. It's not, my God's better than your God. It's, we are the same divinity in our innermost being. And this is where it comes no one to fear. There are no rivals, because we are all the same divine being, the same divine nature. So, what do you do for the love of God? Jayanti's song said it all. God gave her a voice. She sings songs. She writes them too, and all of them are an offering to God. There's a wonderful Buddhist title after the ecstasy, the laundry. What happens when the chocolate runs out? I mean, everything, if our minds are filled with God, then everything we see is God. We have to remind ourselves sometimes, because we all have egos. We're still all working kind of on we're trying to get rid of it. We're lessening it, but we all have them still. And we've worked very hard to cultivate them. However, your goals may change in the world, but your goals hopefully will remain the same in the spirit, which is to love and know God. Like Jesus said, that two great commands. The first great commandment is love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, with all thy power. And the second commandment is like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophet. If you don't know anything else, that's all you have to know. But it's not easy. And it takes constant practice and attention. Ramakrishna said you had to yearn for God with your whole being, as a man drowning yearns for air. And Krishna said in the Gita, give me your whole heart, love and adore me, worship me only, and you shall find me, who love you dearly. And this is the whole promise that we have, and that we know, or we wouldn't be looking for it. Somewhere deep in our hearts, we know this already. Because anything that we love, we go after. And most of you wouldn't be here if you weren't interested in God and your own path to finding your idea of God, or peace, or consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It's beyond words, so it's very difficult to define. We give it a word, God, Brahman, but that's just for our convenience, for reference. That's not the whole truth. We can't express it in words. No one has ever been able to express it in words, because it is beyond time, space, and causation. So, that you can find it. I was looking also through John Muir's writings, He found this peace and this all-consuming love in nature. You can find it where everyone comes into this life with a little different approach, because we have lived many lives before and we have created many habits. So we have to look at ourselves and see where we are and start there. But at this point, the goal of bhakti yoga, which is, Ramakrishna said, is the easiest path in this age, is to love God with all your heart, with all your soul. Everyone knows how to love. We may not do it perfectly, but we can work on it. We can always improve. So that is the message of bhakti yoga, and we can do it through every aspect of our life.
Gift of life you've given me, know so many things that show your majesty. From the tallest mountains to the smallest flower, to the waves upon the sea. Still I long to see your face completely. There's no greater beauty to be found. Days and nights may come and go forever, ever changing, spinning round and round. You've given hearts for caring and hands for sharing, and minds to think on thee. You move the feet of every dancer and inspire every song. They are all a part of thee. Still I long to see your face completely. There's no greater beauty to be found. Days and nights may come and go forever, ever changing, spinning round and round. As my life continues and each day unfolds, I pray this much will be. Fill my heart to overflowing with thy precious love. Keep me ever close to thee. How I long to see your face completely. There's no greater beauty to be found. Days and nights may come and go forever, ever changing, spinning round in this heart where you're found. In this heart you've given me.
Okay, we have a few announcements. Couple, three. Yeah, I haven't buried the announcement card. There it is. Okay, next week, Swami Mahayogananda will be speaking on Have Thou No Home. Wednesday at 5 o'clock, we'll have our usual reading of How a Shepherd Boy Became a Saint, the story of Swami Adbhutananda. On Wednesday, what we're trying to do is go over the lives of each of the direct disciples of Ramakrishna. Many of you have read the Gospel and have followed this, and many of us still get their names confused and don't know who we're talking about because they all go by about 6 different names. But each one of his original disciples, according to some people's thoughts, when you put them all together, you have the whole of Ramakrishna. Each one are a separate aspect of him, a different way of approaching him. Okay, Saturday on the, would that be the 13th, we'll have the regular gospel reading of Ramakrishna here in the temple at 5. On the 20th, we're having a karma yoga day. We would love to have all of you come, or anyone that can, that wants to work. You know, what do you do for the love of God? Oh, I weed the garden. I wash clothes. I mean, it's your chance to come up and see what we do and have lunch with us. And yes, we'll make you work. Yes.
So when are we going to cook with God again?
I'm sorry?
When are we going to cook with God again?
Oh,
That's a great question. Yeah, because you don't want to miss it.
yeah. As soon as I get my act together. The first time it was kind of what she's asking. One time I thought, well, everyone should. I had a kind of a day retreat on cooking for God.
Yeah.
Okay? And this was just what we do here at the temple every single day. We cook, we have purity rules, we have all of this stuff that is terribly ritualistic, and we offer the flower in the small, offer the food in the small shrine, and then it's called prasad. But the first time I thought, no, people aren't going to be that interested. We had over 30 people in our kitchen. It was like, oh, what are we going to do? But I have to tell you, we got a 5-course Indian dinner completed. I kind of...
Except I ate while I was cooking.
That's wrong. That's totally wrong. Probably I threw a little Ganges water on it. The only thing we funked on was the dessert, and I couldn't do it. I said, cut up mangoes and ice cream are a good dessert in India. So that's what we had. That's what she's asking. We will have another day. Okay? But this Karma Yoga Day on the 20th will be probably more outdoor and indoor work. And mark down... No, that's a little early. We're going to have 2 visiting Swamis this summer. One, Swami Kripa Moyananda from Toronto. We'll be here on the 1st of July, which is a Saturday, and we'll probably have an evening talk and a potluck. So if you want to put it down, you can, but we'll keep announcing that. Okay, that's it for the announcements for this today. So we'll end with Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Yep, that's it. And I have to say hi to the people that are here on Zoom. They're very, very regular. Okay.